You're listening to Empress Conversations podcast with your host, Maggie Peary. Conversations with Maggie. Yeah, yeah. Empress. Join us next time on the next episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. To learn more about guests or for more information on working with Maggie, go to www.empressconversationswithmaggie.com/get-started.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. Today, my guest is Jennifer Pink with Thumbprint Collective. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so delighted to speak with you today. Jennifer, tell us about your business and how you got started.
How I got started. That's a long story. I started Thumbprint Collective about 3 years ago.
Okay.
I had been in business for about 11 years before that. And although I had built a solid brand, I hadn't really defined what I wanted to do, right? Like I was kind of just all over the place a little. Well, not all over the place, but all over the place in the terms of I wasn't honing in on that one thing and making money, right? Like I called it my expensive hobby. I had written like 3 or 4 books. I had spoke on stages, but I wasn't generating any revenue, right? Like I wasn't even breaking even. So it was a very expensive hobby. And so I had moved to Georgia, and my thoughts were, I'm going to move to Georgia and my business is going to take off, right? Like I'm going to get rich. People are going to start paying me all kinds of money. And as much as my business has changed and I'm doing well, it didn't quite happen like that. What happened was I was approached by these ladies to manage their blog. And I had never managed a blog before that. But I knew business and I knew branding and I knew marketing. And I had just never done that for someone else because I just thought I wasn't good enough. Right. I had this whole in my head. I didn't get a degree. I didn't go to college. I just know what I know. So I'm just not good enough. I could never have that as a business. But they loved what I was doing with my brand. So they approached me and I created a whole strategy plan for them. From what type of content to, what to post on social media, what merchandise they should launch, what partnerships they should go after. And that was the first time somebody paid me. And they didn't just pay me like $500. They paid me a couple $1,000s. And I even built their website, right? So it was like this whole thing, which now looking back, I mean, I did it for really cheap, but it was the first time, like I said, I had gotten paid. And so that like kind of lit this fire. And it was like, I do this really easily and people are willing to pay for this. Maybe this is the lane I need to be in versus the life coaching versus the author, because I really hate writing books anyway, right? Maybe this is the lane. And so as I was building that out, I took a VA job for another entrepreneur, right? Because in my my real life, my 9-to-5 life, I was a secretary. And so I could be a VA, like that's, I could do that with my eyes closed. But then being her VA, I realized that small businesses tend to have this huge problem. They want to hire this one person to do everything in their business.
Yes.
One, they don't pay enough for everything. And 2, your average VA couldn't possibly do half of these things.
Facts.
She was blessed in the fact that, like I said, I had been an entrepreneur for so long. So I know how to build a website. I know the basics of branding. I know how to market. Because I was a secretary in my old job, I know how to run an office, right? Like I knew all the things, but I was like, ma'am, this is not $12 an hour work. Like this is And then I didn't feel respected, right? Because she would ask me what to do and I would give her my thoughts, but then she would go ask her business coach, who she was paying thousands of dollars to a month, and they would literally say the same thing. But because she was paying them thousands of dollars, she respected what they said and not what I said. And I was like, oh, we got a problem. Like, Houston, we have a problem. And so with that, I started Thumbprint, and I was like, I want to be the team for small business owners, right? Because I think we've gotten to the point where we believe in investing in the coach,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But we haven't gotten to the point where we realize, but who's going to execute what the coach says? Because if you had time to execute, we probably wouldn't even be here. Like, we would be in a whole different ballpark. And so that's what I went after doing, becoming that team. I've learned so much along the journey, right? I've made my first 6 figures. I love what I'm doing. But now I've also learned, I love the done for you space. I don't like the coaching and the consulting space, because people don't listen, right? And I feel like my breath is priceless. And so I don't want to talk just to talk. Like, if you're not going to execute, I don't even want your money. Like, I don't even want to do this right here. So now my business has transformed to, I do strategy mainly, right? Most of our clients come to us because they need the plan, they need the blueprint, right? They've got the coach telling them that they need to define their brand, telling them that they need to market, but they don't know what that looks like in real life. So we create the plan, because I know how to do this, like, with my eyes closed. So we create the plan. And then for a few select businesses, we do the whole thing. But I've learned that I need people who are willing to be locked in, and ain't no switching up. Right. So you have, like, we're talking about 6 months retainers, or we're talking about, I have an idea for a business, take me from here to launch. Those are the only people I work with in a complete done for you space. But I'm doing it all for you, right? Because that's where my expertise shines. Because, and if anybody is ever any type of coach or consultant or strategist, you come up with these amazing ideas and you give them to people, and then you're looking at them like, that's not what I said. You didn't do that right. Wait, no, like, right. And so you begin to doubt yourself, and you begin to doubt your abilities and your talents and your natural gifts. And so I don't want to put my self-esteem in somebody else's hands.
There you go. There you go.
So great. This is where we are.
Jennifer, that is a great segue, because earlier on, you mentioned that you work for another woman and you didn't feel respected. And then right before that, you mentioned something about, I guess, this is me paraphrasing, you had a little bit of imposter syndrome in terms of when you first started. So being that you were working for another woman and then you didn't feel heard in yourself, how did you overcome that for that time? Because if you're dealing with imposter syndrome, and then that just adds on more pressure when you're not feeling respected or heard by another woman. How did you overcome that hurdle and then continue on to just bring that bag home and make 6 figures?
So what I always tell people is, if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you need to hire a life coach or a therapist, because entrepreneurship has this amazing ability to pull all the pieces that are within you that we try to hide, we try to mask, we try to push down and pretend like they don't exist. It will bring it all on Front Street. Like, all your business will be out there. Entrepreneurship just does that. And I don't care what anybody says, but that's what it does. And so before I was hired by her, I had begun the journey of really understanding how much lack of self I had, self-love, self-worth, self-esteem, right? Like, I had begun the work before that when it came to, like, relationships with men or relationships with friends, but never in the space of just owning who I was. Like, I didn't really know that I never owned who I was and what I could do and believe in my power. And so I had begun the work. It's something about full-time entrepreneurship. When you ain't got a check to fall back on, you start doing all kind of work on yourself. Like, okay, let me get this right. Let me get this right. And
Right.
so I begun doing the work. So when I was in the position, and at first you kind of brush some things off as personality traits. You kind of brush things off as, okay, maybe, I understand high powered woman. We kind of build this extra masculine toughness, and
Right.
maybe that's what this is. And then when it became blaring in my face, when I'm sitting in the room with the coach, and the coach is like, well, Jennifer said is what you should do. And she's like, oh, are you like, like when it just became blaring, I was like, this is the time where I have to leave. Like, there's no conversation that we can have. There's no meeting of the minds. Like, if you don't respect me, I can't force you to respect me. So I just have to walk away and go where I'm respected. Like, and but I could not have done that a year before, because a year before I would have been like, well, what if I can't find another gig? What if I can't, what I got to feed my kid? Like, all the other things would have been more paramount. But at that point, it just, respect is almost worth its weight in gold, because now I work with people and they respect me so highly that the referrals are so, like, they calling me to, oh, I met this person and this person needs you and I'm going to give them your number. And but that's because of the mutual respect. So the respect is almost worth more than the money, because your respect can take me to other places that your money just can't.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. One thing, Jennifer, with Thumbprint, let's talk a little bit about that with Thumbprint Collective. In your business, you are a strategist, right? In your words, from what I heard. So being a strategist, you basically did this for yourself. And so if you can turn your company from being not sustainable to generating six figures in a short time period, then how you transition that and do it for your client, because you've actually got it for proof. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't have the strategy when it first, the first year, first couple of years in business, there is no strategy to make their business sustainable. And like in your words, which you said so well, it becomes an expensive hobby. So how do you take someone's idea into a thriving business that actually brings in profit?
So what I uncovered, right? The sweet spot of entrepreneurship is when you marry your purpose with your passion, with your natural skills and talents, right? Like, that's the sweet spot. A lot of people are, have a business built around their purpose, but they don't have their passion doesn't work with it, or their skills and talents aren't working with it. And so Thumbprint is the sweet spot of me, right? In all honesty, because creating strategy was something I did well before entrepreneurship was even on the table. I was the person, if you came to me and you were like, I want to become a model, I'm researching, I'm coming up with a plan. Okay, so you need to talk to these kinds of people. We need to be at these kinds of events. We need these kinds of pictures. Like, that's who I am naturally. I am naturally a strategist. I am naturally the person that needs a plan, and not just oh, we're going to go down over here plan. No, I need first, we're going to do this. Second, we're going to do this. Third, we're going to do, like, I need the detailed plan. That's who I am naturally. So when people come to me with their business, one of my other lovely gifts is I can hear what you're not saying.
Oh,
So entrepreneurs come and they give you all these cute buzzwords, and they tell you all the things that they've heard other people say. And I just listen and I smile and I nod. And then I start to ask those deeper questions.
Okay.
And they're like, why are you asking me that? Why do you need to just answer my question? Trust me. Just answer my question. Trust me. Right. And then they answer the questions. And then from there, I'm able to literally go, is this what you want? And I'm able to put into words what they want in their business. And most people have just never heard it, right? Like, they've never heard their vision put into words. And I always say, like, that's because you missed the step of building a solid brand. Because if you build a solid brand, you've got your vision put into words, right? Like, we get the logo, we get the cute stuff, we get the colors, but that's not your brand. Your brand is who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and why you do it. It's the who, what, when, where, how, right? Of your business. And so once I'm able to put their vision into words, they're like, oh my gosh, yes. Like the light bulb goes off and they're like, how do I make that happen? Oh, we can do, baby. Like, let me tell you, first, we need to redevelop this brand. We need to get this on paper, because when we get it on paper and when we make it right, like the scripture says, write it, write it, make it plain, right? So when you write it and make it plain, it can seed into every other aspect of your business. You now know how to market your business because you know exactly what to say, who to talk to, when to talk to them, how to talk to them, right? You know exactly when it's time to grow, when it's time to scale, right? Another big thing that we do in the strategy is pricing, because I don't know who sprinkled the fairy dust that said just come up with a price, right? Like, no, there's a formula to this and you need to follow it, right? That's why you can't invest in hiring somebody. That's why you can't invest in hiring a coach, hiring a strategist, because you're not pricing correctly, because that should be from the day one price, so that when you've sold 100 items, you've got this little stockpile of money that you can now invest into your business to do the next thing. And so that's what I do. Like, I literally break all that out, right? I break all those pieces down, and all you have to do is follow the yellow brick road.
I love the yellow brick road. Jennifer, let me ask you, so this is a twofold question. Who and where is Jennifer Pink going to be in the next 10 years?
I will most definitely be living on community land. Village is the heart of everything for me. It is why I do everything that I do. So in the next 10 years, I definitely will be living on village land, working and playing and doing life with people that I consider my village, right? And I definitely will be speaking on stages still. I definitely will still be strategizing with Black business owners. But my life will look like the things that I talk about every day.
Wonderful. Love it. So then the second half of that question is, where is Thumbprint Collective going to be in the next 5 to 10 years? What is the end game here, the big goal that a Thumbprint is striving for?
So the big goal for us is to change the trajectory of the Black economy. That is the big goal for us. So I don't, selling is not an option on the table. Merging is not really an option on the table. We will be doing this work and continuing this work until we can't do this work anymore. I would love if my children did this work, right? I would love if I was able to hire people who caught the vision completely and not just knew how to do this thing, right? But really caught the vision and did the work. But we are also in this moment transitioning to a second subsection, so to speak, called Black Business Over Everything. And in that subsection, we want to be the community. We want to be the backbone. We want to be the funding source. We want to be the educational platform for Black business owners. So that, I think, is our 10, 20-year plan, is to build that out and become that. And it'd be like, if I close my eyes, I see somebody saying, I want to start a business, or I want to do this. And Black Business Over Everything has a Black business that can do that or help you with that. And so the dollar starts to circulate more than it's ever circulated within our community.
I love that. I love that. Jennifer, I feel as though there's something in the air, and I noticed that there's a trend. Every woman I'm connected to professionally, there is something about now is the time to get on board and strive for your dreams, because I don't know if you've caught it, like it's in the air. Every woman I know personally is digging in and putting her feet to the ground, because it's like if you miss the boat now, it's like this is the year for the Black woman. Truly, I truly believe it. Funding is becoming available. Lots of women are moving over into entrepreneurship. This is the time. There is no excuse for getting a website, getting started, whatever your gift is, if it's a service or a product, selling it. And I'm just amazed. It tickles me every time I see a woman who's invested in doing this and doing that. It just gets me excited. Have you noticed that trend as well, and the passion in this new age of, go Black women, we're doing it, we're making our dollars, we're getting the bag?
I have. I think it's been happening for quite some time, right? It started with education. We
Yes.
all went after education, and
Yes.
then kind of realized that education is not as beneficial for a Black woman as it is for necessarily a white man, right? Just because I got all the letters behind my name doesn't mean I'm going to walk into the $200,000-$300,000 a year job like they can.
That's a podcast I have to do on a separate day, but yes.
Right. So we started with that revolution, and then we went, oh, okay. So you don't want to pay me, right? Like we know our worth. Like, and I think that as Black women as a whole, we've kind of always had this, not you ain't talking to me, right? Like, cause I'm above that. Like we've
Right.
always had that spirit. And
Right.
so it started with those who had the means, right? Those who had the money started the wave of I'm gonna create a business, or I'm gonna go out here and do what I really want to do. I'm gonna go after my passion. I'm gonna figure out my purpose. I'm gonna live my life to my fullest, right? And
Right.
now we're starting to see the ones that don't necessarily have the same means, the same, bank accounts, are starting to be like, I can do it too, right? And I think that's when the revolution has really taken full force, because I think for so long there was this thought you had to be rich to start a business, and the truth is business is the best way to bootstrap yourself to rich.
It
And
is.
so yeah, like I think that that's definitely what's happening. And people are you know they're willing to put in the work.
Absolutely. And there just isn't an excuse with YouTube, TikTok University, all these avenues and seriously, I'm joking about it, but it really is no excuse. Granted, you could probably start off that way, but at some point you will have to either pay for a professional coach or pay for a mentor, because I cannot stress how much I believe in mentorship. I have worked with 3 mentors, and I got myself a new coach this year, but there's so many wonderful benefits. If someone is trying to get where somebody has already been, why waste years when they could easily show you the path and the
Definitely.
method to doing it? So I definitely do agree with that. What's your insight with next year being an election year?
Honestly, I mean, I'm with all the memes. I think that we need a timeout and we need to be single for a while, right? Like, because we it's a whole lot of craziness going on. Um, I my hope and my prayer is that we begin to actually pay attention. I think a lot of times it's an emotional decision. It's a knee-jerk response. It's oh well, this is what we've always done, so this is what we have to do. And I think as more of us step into the business realm, as more of us pay attention to the economy, as more of us are just like, wait, it got to make dollars and cents, right? I think there's going to be a shift. I don't think it will be next year, because I just think it's a little too soon. I think it's actually it probably has to get worse before it gets better. And just paying attention to what's going on in Florida and Texas, I think it's going to get worse, and we're going to see more attacks. We're going to go back to the attacks of just because we are Black and brown, right? Like nothing else, nothing else to do with it. And it's going to be more on a bigger stage, and not just, in the small city or in the small town, something we can hush hush and hide away, or not just the police, which it never was just, but you know how that goes. But it's going to be more on this huge platform, which is going to cause us to start paying attention. And I think it's what's needed. But I also think with that, entrepreneurship is going to take off, because as we watch and pay attention to, oh, the government really don't care about us. Oh, that good job ain't really got no security, right? Oh, then benefits was really a bull over our eyes. We will begin to rely on one another, and we will begin to kind of go back to the bartering and the village and the recycling the dollar within ourselves, which is the reason why other communities are thriving and successful and don't care when there's a recession and don't pay attention to what craziness is going on, because they have the infrastructure and we don't have the infrastructure. And I totally think that this will be the journey to our building of an infrastructure, or at least I pray.
Well said. I'm going to circle our conversation back to Thumbprint Collective. So if one of our listeners is really enjoying our conversation, let's talk about how our listeners could work with you. Let's say someone who's been in business for maybe 3 months to 6 months, literally just getting started. How do you help new entrepreneurs, new businesses get started and elevate them to that six figures within the first couple of years?
I give you a blueprint, or I call it the Black print, right?
I love it.
I can definitely, if you are just starting, or if you haven't started, it's almost the perfect time, because you don't have any bad habits.
I love that. You
don't have any nuances that we have to, coach you through, right? You're like a baby, and you think of how quickly a baby goes from just laying there to crawling to walking to running. Like, that's a year's time. They're just out the door. And that's literally what a strategy can do for you in the beginning. So whether you work with me, our shortest time strategy session is 4 hours, or whether you're like, okay, no, I want to get locked in, and you want to do a intensive year-long strategy session, whichever you want to do, it is the perfect time to do it, because I guarantee you the light bulbs will go off. We'll unlock some things you weren't thinking about. We can definitely start fine-tuning them 7 streams of income within your one business, not your 7 businesses. And we can really get you into a place where, like you said, in a year or two, you're making the 6 figures, right? Not in 5 to 10. Because most of us, it took us 5 to 10 because we didn't have the plan. We didn't have the strategy. We were just kind of winging it on a hope, prayer, and, well, I think this may work today, right? And that's the beauty of, like you said, mentorship. That's the beauty of coaching and consulting. That's the beauty of a strategy.
I love it. I love it. Share with us, Malika, I'm so sorry. I wrote down Malika's. Share with us, Jennifer, how people can find you and how they can get access to you.
Sure. You can connect with me. I'm on all social media as @MS Jennifer Pink, like the color. You can connect with me as far as business. My DMs are always open. I'm not one of those people like, don't DM me, please DM me. I don't care. But you can connect with the business at thumbprintcollective.com or blackbusinessovereverything.com. That's what all their socials are as well. Like, I believe in a solid, strong brand through and through, right? So at Thumbprint Collective on Facebook, on Instagram, at Black Business Over Everything on Instagram. And then we have a Facebook community that's Black Business Over Everything. And those are the easiest ways to get connected. And if you connect with me at any of those places, the links will be there, right? Like, I guarantee you, I don't hide my links. They're not hidden underneath some magic spell. Like, they're right there in the top. They're in the bio. They're on, click a post and it'll take you to a link. Like, I believe in, you should be able to easily find me and talk to me.
I love it. I love it. Any other speaking engagements or events coming up in Atlanta or online that people can find you or, follow up with you?
I don't have any at this moment. I kind of took a back seat of the personal speaking to really hone in on thumbprint and Black business over everything. But I'm always available.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You're definitely very engaging, and I've enjoyed our chat here today.
Thank you.
Jennifer, before we kind of close our conversation here, any last words or things or thoughts you would like to share or offers with our listening audience and people who are watching us on YouTube?
I would say collaboration,
Mm,
right? Like collaborate. We need to get out of the space of I'll do it on my own, I'll bootstrap, I'll figure it out. Um, Whether or not you have the funds to do whatever it is that you need to do, collaboration is key.
absolutely.
Collaboration is key. We are in the process of launching our next service, and it is all about collaboration, because there's so many things that you need in business,
Right.
and them price tags start adding up. Like, I'm gonna keep it real with you, them price tags start adding up. And so stay connected with community, right? Like, find your community, find your people, and collaborate. Like, don't be afraid to say, hey, I need to do a photo shoot. um you know, does anybody like sell lashes, and I can wear your lashes instead of going to spend $100 you don't have on getting your lashes done, right? Because they need high quality photography, they need models in their lashes, so why not you? And
I
it just becomes that simple.
And you're a brand ambassador just like that. Another title added on. Hey, I love it. I love it. I love it. What else?
um Outside from collaboration, I would say I think we need to get to our sweet spots faster. Like,
Mm,
figure out what your true purpose is, not what you think your purpose is that you can monetize, right? Like, it's become like this thing, like, what can I monetize? No. What is your true purpose? What are you truly passionate about? And what are your God-given, naturally breathed skills and talents? And let's create something around that, because the worst thing you can do is create a business that is a job that you hate going to.
exactly. Waking up to exactly. Now, I really liked how you framed that, Jennifer, because you mentioned the sweet spot. In my 20s, I had no clue who I was. I just wanted to have fun, get up every day, party city. Now, in my 30s, I started to be like, okay, let me. My 40s was the sweet spot because I kind of fit into my skin and I can walk in who I am and my purpose into this world in this world. How would you mirror that in terms of wherever our listeners are at whatever stage they're in their life, finding that sweet spot? Because for me that happened at around 40, for others it could be 50, 60, etc. How to, besides therapy, you did mention you went, therapy's another, always highly recommend therapy, but how did you hone in on finding that sweet spot and finding a good business to run?
So what I always say is, like you said, in our 20s, we want to party and have fun. In our 30s, we start going like, what's this really about? In our 40s, we go like, oh, wait, let me get this together real quick. Like, we ain't got that much time.
Right.
But what I always say is, when you were a child, you were in your sweet spot and you had no idea, and you were just doing it because it was who you were. And life is what took you out of it.
Mm,
So if you want to get back to it, no matter if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it's time to just look within, because it's always been there, right? Like, you were born with the purpose. Like, the purpose doesn't get created, it doesn't become because of whatever happens. You were born with it. What happens is life is trying to teach us how to use it and walk in it. And sometimes we just don't pay attention. We think it's some other stuff going on. And when we be doing some other stuff, because we're people and people gon' people, right? Life gon' life. So I just always say, just, close your eyes for 10 minutes a day and start to ask yourself the hard questions. What do I really want to do? What do I do with before anybody can ask me, before I can think about getting somebody to pay me for it? What did I used to do when I was a little kid? For me, when I was a little kid, I was out here, selling stuff to my grandparents and then expecting them to give me real money in exchange. I've always been an entrepreneur. That's who I've always, you know what I mean? Like, that's who I am. And so I just started walking as an adult in that thing. And I think it's the same thing. And then as far as turning it into a business, find a true business coach, right? And I'm using that really harshly because there's a lot of people who have the smoke and mirrors, right? Pay attention to people, right? Use your discernment and find somebody who's invested in not getting your money as much as they're invested in seeing you get to the next place. Because those are the types of people that will pay attention to you telling them your purpose and hear your passion. Because when you start talking about your passion, it sounds different, right? When I start talking about Black people, it sounds totally different than when I'm just talking business. And then they will be able to ask you questions about, well, what do you do? Like, what can you do without even trying, right? And then they will, boom, there's the sweet spot. Don't try to do it by yourself, because I think that that's where we disservice it, right? Because we go, oh, I know what I could do. But 9 times out of 10, you're thinking through the lens of what the world says you can do, not what you can really do or who you really are. And so it takes quiet. It takes pulling back. I tell people all the time, it's going to take pulling back from the people closest to you, because a lot of times their opinions and their thoughts are what's shaping how you're moving versus you. And we don't even realize it, and not in a bad way, right? Like, your mama probably wants the best for you, but she want what she thinks is the best for you, not necessarily what you know. And so I think that that's how you do it.
What awesome and inspiring closing remarks. This is Jennifer Pink with Thumbprint Collective. Jennifer, one more time for a listening audience, where can they find you online and what's your email? Please give that out one more time before we end our conversation here.
You can find me everywhere at Miss Jennifer Pink. You can connect with us on our website, thumbprintcollective.com, Black Business Over Everything.com. And you can always email me at info@thumbprintcollective.com.
Jennifer, thank you. It was an absolute delight. Until next time, thank you for being with us today. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're listening to Empress Conversations podcast with your host, Maggie Peary. Conversations with Maggie. Empress. Join us next time on the next episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. To learn more about guests or for more information on working with Maggie, go to www.empressconversationswithmaggie.com/get-started.